Hello, everyone, and welcome to Good Body, Good Brain. This is a place where we take neuroscience and we marry it with the latest research about how we can be healthier, wealthier, and wise. And today, I'm really fortunate to have a person with me who also is a podcaster, and I love that we're going to be doing some joint podcasting work. So we have Matt Findora. He is from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he has a very, very interesting background. And so I'm going to let him just give us like a quick overview at the beginning of where you came from the Marine Corps, what you're doing there, and how you are now, and how you see yourself a couple of years from now. So take it away.
Hey, well, thank you for allowing me to be on here. My story started my senior year of college, or I'm sorry, my senior year of high school. I grew up in this negative atmosphere, very poor, victim mindset like mentality within my immediate family. And so my older brother had to pay for me to take my ACT. We got the time wrong. I showed up late. I wasn't allowed to take my ACT. So I had no idea what I was going to do. About a week after that, I had somebody approach me in lunch. I had this Marines backpack on, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever considered joining?" I was like, "No, I just got this bag for free in the mail. I just don't want to carry my books everywhere." And he's like, "Well, hey, we're going to go work out today, and we'll even come pick you up and everything." And I was just like, "You know what? Sure, why not? Like, I have this gym in my apartment. I don't know how to use anything. I'd love to learn and figure out how to use this equipment." So I went home, ate food like I do, ate my snack like I do every day. And they showed up, got in the van. We drove past the gym to the park. This was at the height of P90X. And so my first workout essentially of my life was going to do a P90X circuit course in the park. And so naturally, right before the final exercise, I threw up all the food I had just eaten because I didn't know any better. And so the person who was leading this exercise was someone who had recently graduated from boot camp. He's like, "It's all right, take it easy. It's not a big deal. You're tired, you're weak, no biggie." But the guy who invited me was in the same group, and he's like, "What are you doing? Push yourself." And I was like, "You know what? I had to listen. Do I listen to this guy who's saying push myself, right? Or the guy who absolutely understands how I feel right now?" I definitely felt tired and weak. And so I was like, you know what? I came here with a purpose. I came here to grow. I'm just going to push through this. And so I didn't do a lot, but what it highlighted for me was I'm much more capable than what anybody else tells me that I am. And so that was the day I decided, you know what, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. And so I ended up doing 10 and a half years in the Marine Corps, kind of continued my motivational aspect of things in life. Started with just motivational quotes on Facebook, turned into blogging, which then had a technical upgrade, had deleted all the work I had done over like 3 years span. So then I learned what a life coach was after watching I'm Not Your Guru by Tony Robbins on Netflix. And that was like, when I saw that, I was like, that is the type of impact I've been looking for my whole life. Like, that's the type of impact I want to make on people. And naturally, I kind of aimed toward young men because that was my history of if I didn't have that one moment in my life, that one opportunity, I have no idea where I would be today. And so I want to find ways to give back and work through essentially all the things that happened to me. If I can help prevent that in other people or help expedite their growth, that is what means the most to me. And so I just became a mindset coach for young men after I got out of the military. And I got out of the military just a couple of years ago. So October of 21 is when I got out of the military.
Okay, so for people who don't know what a P90X,
Yeah.
Tell them a little bit about the rigor of that.
Man. So you're doing a stressful exercise for a certain amount of time. So whether that's 1, 2, 3 minutes, whatever, then you have like a minute or two break, and then you go do the next exercise for 3 minutes. And you have to give essentially everything that you have within this exercise and with minimal breaks because it's high intensity training. So it's exhausting for your cardiovascular and just every system in your body.
Well, it sounds like sort of like circuit training on steroids.
Yes. Basically, yes.
Yes. And so do you still do some kind of workout regimen right now, or?
Now that I'm out, I don't necessarily do it as much just because I haven't had as much time because I'm trying to focus on a lot of different things compared to,
Mm-hmm.
starting my, my coaching business, working on the
Mm-hmm.
podcasting, and then that's still my side hustle at this point. I still have my 9 to 5 that I have to do. So I'm trying to, you said where I want to be in a couple years. If I could stop the 9 to 5 and just work on my coaching and podcasting full time, that opens up
Mm-hmm.
so much space for just personal growth as well.
Yes, yes, because every coach needs a coach.
Yes.
Yeah, because when I have coaches, and I always ask them, "Well, who's your coach?" And what I want to hear is that they're like 5 levels higher than me. So like I'm always moving towards a direction.
Mhm.
Then you finally get into a mastermind with lots of really fantastic people, and you look around and you say, "Hey, they're not much different from me." So, what am I contributing to this whole sort of organization? What is it that I can do? Um, which is really, really fun when you have that sort of ideas, going back and forth, and you can see them. You can actually see mindset work at work. You can see
Yeah.
growth mindset everywhere. And it's so fascinating to see how the human mind changes with just somebody intervening, like that person intervened with you. That sort of like 10 seconds, that 10 seconds of affirmation of like, heck, you need to be doing this, buddy.
Hmm.
So when you start out with like a new person and they found you either word of mouth or whatever, um, you do. And tell me a little bit about that assessment that you start out with.
So, what I like to start off with is something I learned from Lewis Howes, who's my role model at this
Yeah.
point.
Yes, of
Uh,
course.
it
Love Lewis. Love him.
so it's called the Perfect Day Itinerary, and so
Hmm.
what that means is you pick a time. I like to pick 5 years because that's a very reasonable time where it's not too far. You're not thinking too real,
Hmm.
too extreme, too much of dreaming, but at the same time, you're not thinking about tomorrow and where you're at right now. You
Hmm.
can think of that journey. So 5 years. What does a perfect day look like for you? And so that's you can write it in paragraph form. I like doing it in the actual time block form. Like what
Hmm.
7 o'clock you wake up, 7:30 you go to the gym, and whatever else that you're putting on there. Eating here or eating here, eating with the family.
Hmm.
When you put that on a list of in that time sequential order, you start to realize, wow, like not all of this is that far out of reach, and I can actually
Hmm.
start today to get some of
Hmm.
that done. So essentially it's almost getting the young man to think about, hey, I'm actually capable of making choices that will actually get me to what this ideal life looks like and how happy this will make me and how much joy this will bring me, and I have the ability to make the decisions to get to that point.
Yeah, it's baby steps.
Hmm.
It's not
It's
like you have to, like, like suddenly you're one person one day, you're another person the next. It's just, if you can just make that little tiny baby step every day,
Mhm.
it's amazing. I talk about people like we're sending a rocket to the moon. If we're off by like half a degree, we're going to miss that moon. But if we're right on just by like a tiny, tiny, small amount of trajectory every day, we're going to reach the moon. Some
Yeah.
people, some people hop on the rocket at different speeds, different intensities, but we're still going in the same direction.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. And I think we overcomplicate ourselves because we overthink everything that oh, I have to
Mhm.
make these 50 different steps to get to this point instead of,
Mhm.
okay, let's just focus on this one small thing and let's
Mhm.
apply that today and apply the same thing tomorrow and again
Mhm.
and again. And it's just this avalanche of I'm just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And then that's how you become that person that you want to be and that you see yourself becoming is just those small, small steps.
Yes, and I love the concept of consistency. Um, Simon Sinek, another one of my heroes, says there's certain things you only have to do a little bit every day. But if you don't do them, bad things happen, like brushing your teeth.
Hmm.
You can brush your teeth one day and think, I've brushed my teeth. I don't have to do this anymore. Or I can go to the gym and have a really good workout. I don't have to do this anymore. But the reality is, it's like little tiny thing that you do every single day. That's why I like the concept of tiny habits. Um,
Hmm.
that's a really good one for people. You take something you're already doing and you attach a habit that you haven't started doing or are a bit reluctant to do. Um, my one is taking a thing of dental floss. Let's see if I got one here. Yep, a little thing of dental floss. Taking some painter's tape and attaching it to my remote control. So every commercial, I can pick up the remote control and there's the dental floss. And I'll say, oh, heck, during this commercial, which is like, oh, heck, there's so many on TV now, I can floss my teeth. But most people don't like doing it because, like, I got to remember it and et cetera, et cetera. So you put together this whole bunch of tiny habits cemented on something you do already, and it becomes easy peasy.
Yeah, I think habit stacking is a great way to, again, another small thing that you could just add on and it just builds on. Flossing, great example. Um, you know, I think that the gym is one of the hardest ones. People are like, oh man, like I just want to start going to the gym. What do I do? And it might be something as simple as when you get up, like have your clothes already ready and
Yes,
put it right
have the
next
gym
to you
bag.
and put it right
Got it.
next to your bed. So the second you get up, oh, it's right there. I can just pick it up and walk with it, and it's there and it's
Hmm.
visible. And you're not it's not one of those things where it's out of sight, out of mind. It's
Hmm.
visible, and you're like, I made this commitment. I'm going to continue. I'm going to be consistent with this commitment that I made.
Yes, and it's also helpful. I like to make appointments with people. That sort of propels me because I'll never be late or I'll never miss an appointment. I have to be either dead or in jail. It's not likely I'm going to be in jail um, if I'm late or miss an appointment. I tell people, oh, if you book me for this time, I'm going to be there. So that's why I like to book a personal trainer at the gym because then
Mm,
I'm going to show up. I'm going to
yeah.
meet them. It's almost like I don't want to disappoint them. Plus, they're there to make a living, and I'm there to help them do that. And they in turn are helping me make a living by being vital and productive and enjoying life and all those kinds of things that come with the work that we both do with different people.
Yeah, that's a great way as well because you understood what your value was. You don't like being
Hmm.
late, and you attached that habit to a value that you had, and so
Hmm.
you can connect, make sure that habit is actually heartfelt too.
Hmm. Now, you have another job, which I think is very stressful. And you've been doing it for quite some time. And I know you did it partly in the Marine Corps, and now you're still doing it.
Mhm.
Um, give us a little bit of what, first of all, tell our audience what it is, and also how you manage the sort of innate stress that comes with it.
So my 9 to 5 is air traffic control. Started that. That was the job I got when I joined the Marine Corps. Continue to do it. It's a decent paying job.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, yeah, it does come with some inherent stress. If you're not good at it, it makes it a lot more stressful. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're actually good at it, the things that you learn and you take away are you learn to focus on what you can control and what you cannot control. And so
Mm-hmm.
differentiating the two of those things, there's you're going to tell somebody, a pilot, to do something, and you have to basically have a plan A and a plan B. If they listen to me, this is going to work. If they don't listen to me, this is going to be my next step, and I have to get that done. And
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like leaving out the nerves of, well, if this person does this, what you have to come up with multiple plans on
Mm-hmm.
what does a safe environment look like.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have that experience and you figure what that is, it becomes a lot less stressful. You have your stressful days where everybody's talking on top of each other and you have no idea how to make heads or tails of what's being
Mm-hmm.
said. But if you come up with a plan, focus on what you can control, and ignore the things that you can't control, or accept those things that you can't control, it makes the job a lot more easier to handle.
I think absolutely that's hitting the nail on the head because I sometimes work with jet fighter pilots who have their idea that they want to become a commercial airline person because the money's really good and you get to, time off, you get to be with your family, etc. But you're dealing with big egos all day long. Now, I know they really appreciate you because you're going to be there for them, especially if something really untoward happens, like say a door flies off on
Hmm.
the side of an airplane. Can you imagine? Uh, I was living in Hawaii when that plane, the something about the roof sheared off, and several of the flight attendants went with it, and
Oh.
they had to land. They had to land in Kahului Airport, which isn't the greatest airport in the world. So the pilot, got it done, and
Hmm.
by the time he got down, that every broadcasting company in the entire, I think, world was on the ground waiting to see about the people, if they were okay, if the pilot was okay. Um, it was really scary, and to see the film, it's like super super scary. So they love hearing your voice in their ear because they know you're going to try to keep them safe. But then, you get sometimes you get cowboys up there.
Yeah, that's very true. I had one instance when I was in the Marines in Japan, and we had a pilot try to control the other aircraft, saying, "No, they're going to do this," and it's like, No, you can't. This is my job. This is my job to keep you safe. You need
Hmm.
to stop talking and let me do this job."
Hmm.
So I've definitely seen the egos come out sometimes in the air as well.
Did you ever during that time period, did you ever have to go to your supervisor and say, look, this guy is really, really oppositional? I wouldn't have used that word, but I know what your word might have been used in the Marine Corps. Um, this guy's really oppositional. What the heck are we going to do about this? Because he's really making things not safe up there.
Um, Not necessarily, because we have our own system in place. If something were to
Hmm.
happen to that, we would just
Hmm.
tell them, "Hey, it's called a possible pilot deviation. Uh,
Hmm.
let me know when you're ready to write down this phone number, and you're going to call as soon as you can." And so
Hmm.
and then we have to essentially write a report on them and let them know, "Hey, that
Hmm.
what you did was not okay. This goes against the air safety, and now you have to." And now, that's it's almost like like when we drive, we get points against our driver's license. They get points
Hmm.
against them for their flight, for their flying.
Good, good. I'm glad to know there's some checks and balances out there for all that kind of stuff. Is now in like the commercial business, um, I'm sure airlines are not going to tolerate that kind of behavior from their pilots. Their
Hmm.
pilots know they're going to listen to you, and they're not going to get like, oh, yeah, I want to do this or whatever. They're going to listen to your wonderful, soothing voice in their ear, and they're going to listen exactly to what you tell them.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think I've really had any issues really with commercial pilots. I think
Hmm.
I have seen some egos when it came to they had a mechanical issue, and
Hmm.
so our policy is we have to declare an emergency, make sure all the proper people are out there to take care of the aircraft. And the
Hmm.
pilot was upset that we did that, even though that
Hmm.
is our policy. And it's you can only assume why they felt that way is because there was
Hmm.
something that was missed. And
Hmm.
so um, you know
Hmm.
that's really the only time I've seen a commercial pilot have that type of ego.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know because maybe I'll start flying planes again. Not piloting them, but actually in them. Um, I used to have a job where I flew every single week for about 2 years. I left on Monday, got back on Thursday. I was all over the United States. It was fun the first 6 months. I learned how to get into the plane, get situated, put my seat a little bit back, and fall asleep before takeoff.
Oh,
I was
those are
actually asleep. Yeah, I was
yeah.
asleep on takeoff. People say, "What's wrong with you? How can you do that?" It's self hypnosis. It's a great mindset tool. You can hypnotize yourself into thinking and doing most anything.
Yeah, that bothers my wife whenever we travel. Is I can fall asleep before takeoff, and she's like, "What? Why are you
Mhm.
asleep already?" I'm like, "I'm tired. Like this. We're not going anywhere. You can't do anything. Might as well just take a
Right,
nap."
right. Leave the driving to us. Just let that pilot and that aircraft controller just get you where you need to be, and you don't have to worry about it. Because honestly, driving a car is much less safe,
Yeah.
and much more dangerous.
Hmm.
So I love that you incorporated some of your um, mindset work that you sort of had to learn when you were growing up. You had to kind of change your mind, and I call it stepping into a story or stepping out of one. Because sometimes young people, especially teenagers, get into a story, and that story is related to what their family tells them who they are, and that not they're not really that person at all, but they don't know it and they can't see it.
Hmm.
So I think part of your job is having them learn how to see it, and giving them hope that they can really see it for themselves.
Hmm.
What do you think would be like some of the worst cases that you've ever encountered in terms of like what a family member said to I'll call them a child, they're teenagers but they're still children. um, what do you think about those kinds of things that parents, like either through ignorance or just through plain meanness, say to kids?
I think that's where a lot of our, I mean, parents are the ones who instill the belief systems and identity in kids, and so this is why I focus on what I did, because that kind of happened to me, where my parents told me, "Hey, this is who you are. This is what you're going to be,"
Mm-hmm.
and it was definitely a lot of negative things, and a lot of things that parents
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't say, because then you start
Mm-hmm.
believing all these negative things about yourself. And so I
Mm-hmm.
definitely say a lot of that in my family. Unfortunately, it's still there in some people, where they still
Mm-hmm.
believe certain things. And so it is very hard to work through that, because especially in younger men, if they're below the age of 18 and they still live with their family, when you start working with them, they're going right back into that environment that created the problem to
Mm-hmm.
begin with. And so
Mm-hmm.
now they need the tools of, how do I how do I learn and continue to grow,
Mm-hmm.
but also set those boundaries of, I'm not okay with how you're talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
um if your parents are calling you dumb, that happens.
Stupid.
Yeah,
You're just like your father. You'll
yeah,
never
oh
amount to anything. You're
gosh,
just
those
like
are
your
like,
father.
yes, that is like one of the worst ones, and it still bugs me
Yeah.
to this day, hearing things
Uh-huh.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or one I hear a lot lately is when parents don't understand how to handle their own emotions. And so
Mm-hmm.
when their kids, especially young, like really young kids, they have those
Mm-hmm.
emotional outbursts because they're learning what emotions are. When a
Mm-hmm.
parent immediately shuts them down and says, "You need to check yourself, go to your room," instead of
Right.
educating them on
Mm-hmm.
what is this emotion? How do I handle this emotion and get better?
Mm-hmm.
Something
Mm-hmm.
that I instill in my kids is, every week we go through, we try to learn a new breathing technique. That way, when
Oh
these
yeah.
moments come, when
Great.
the moment comes up, all I have
Mm-hmm.
to do is, all right, which breathing technique do you want to do? Oh, I want to do this one. Okay, go ahead and do that one. So we calm down, and then we can
Mm-hmm.
work through that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's, I think it's a combination of parents not knowing what to do
Mm-hmm.
and not wanting to know what to do, because they
Mm-hmm.
think, this is my traditionalist mindset. This is where I just want to say, this is how I was raised, and I grew up just fine. And so
Mm-hmm.
they do the same thing to their
Mm-hmm.
kids, and the problem is, it's just going to continue, and no one's actually going to grow out of the original person who said, "You're going to be just like me." You don't want,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, the goal of a parent should not be, "I want you to be just like me." It should be, "I want you to be better than me." So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to learn and grow, and I'm going to help. And while I'm learning and growing, I'm going to pass that information on to you, and you're going to continue to learn and grow. And that's how we create better young adults and a better society
Mm-hmm.
moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I teach, I have a lot of clients who have a lot of anxiety, mainly because um, there's a lot of uncertainty around. Things are different today than they were 15, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And there's a certain degree of unsafeness, like when you go out in the world, like I really need to check my environment. I really need to know where I park. I really need to make sure that everything is on the up and up before I go somewhere to do something. So it puts that sort of like little bit of like um, hypervigilance back there, which can cause some anxiety in people. And sometimes it's just plain physiology. Junk food equals junk mood. And
Mm.
that's where we like biohack it like, hey, let's get you cleaned up on the inside so that the outside follows. And then you'll really dial down that anxiety. But I teach them breath also. And I like this old Ayurvedic one. It's called straw breath. And you probably teach this one too, where you just take the biggest inhale you can and then using your core muscles without even stopping or counting, you just let it come out in a little, like you had a straw in your mouth and it looks like this, like that. And you
Mm.
just let it come out. You do it 3 times. And when you're doing it with children, especially small children, we call it kissy breath. Hey, let's do some kissy breath. Ooh, like this. And they love it. They get all like, yay, let's do some kissy breath. But the trick is to teach it to them when they're not upset.
Yep.
And so they've got the tools and they can reach in their toolbox of emotional sort of regulation and say, okay, I'm going to use this one now.
Mhm.
And Matt, if you when you get your kids in that mindset and when they grow up to adults, they're going to produce some of the greatest kids ever because they've learned that from get go from and then they'll go over to grandpa's house and then grandpa will say, you kids are the greatest kids I've ever seen.
Yeah, I feel that I'm blessed to say I feel that every day.
Hmm. So how old are your kids?
My girls are 8 and 6, and my son is 3.
Woo! Do they coddle him? Do they are they like, oh, we've got a brother now? Oh no.
It's an interesting dynamic for sure.
Oh yeah.
They see him and they're like, oh, we could be aggressive now too. So it becomes very aggressive from time to time. But
Mm-hmm.
I think my 6-year-old loves including him on everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like first thing in the morning, they're usually the first two up. They'll just,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we're gonna play this game. We're gonna learn this. And so,
Mm-hmm.
for I think I was just talking to my wife yesterday and this morning about how
Mm-hmm.
amazed I am that my 3-year-old can communicate as well as he does, and
Mm-hmm.
he'll say, whether it comes to like emotion aspect of things, he'll sit here and say, this is what I'm feeling. Oh, okay. And we can work through it. Or
Uh-huh.
it's something as, hey, this happened throughout the day, and he could tell you the events that happened throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day and can tell you all about it.
Oh,
It's
that's wonderful.
amazing. Yeah.
When you can figure out where the trigger is and what the sequence is after that and how you can resolve it, holy cow, that is a setup for a really, really good life.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about your podcast. What kind of people do you interview? Um, what do you focus on?
So my podcast is called Choose to Live, Love, and Grow. It's all about being the best version of yourself through mind, body, heart, and spirit. I like to focus on how do you be the best version of yourself. And one of my consistent topics lately has been about mindset shifts and men's mental health, because
Mm-hmm.
men need to work through a lot of things. And so if I get some people that are
Mm-hmm.
experts in men's mental health,
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing. And if we can provide those tools to people as you're younger and work through those things, that's how we're going to continuously grow as men, and as a society, creating a
Mm-hmm.
safe space for men to have emotional connection and talk about their feelings. Or, I'm going through this difficult thing and this is my mindset shift, and how do I work through that? Those are the things that bring me joy when it comes to interviewing certain people.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the guests, it's really anybody who's gone through anything, or anybody who has a topic that they like to be a subject matter expert
Mm-hmm.
in. If they want to sit there and talk about that and create a better life for the world, like
Mm-hmm.
that's the goal.
I work with a lot of people in their 40s and 50s, and their parents are still renting space in their head.
Mm.
Um, and getting those belief systems teased out and providing evidence that they're not true. Um, and I think probably the worst one that a parent can do is when a kid hurts themselves. Like it
Mm,
really hurts. And they say, that didn't hurt. Why are you
yeah.
crying? You're a boy. Come on, toughen up.
Yeah.
That is one of the most detrimental things that a parent can do for a child, especially if you do it over and over and over. And they learn that their emotions aren't really valid in the big world and they're not supposed to show them because they're supposed to be a man and tough.
Hmm.
I would imagine in the Marine Corps, um, well, they pretty much break you down pretty good and then build you
Hmm.
back up. Um,
Hmm.
they have to get you through that cry like a baby phase before they can build you back up. Um,
Hmm.
but for children, they just need their parent to say, "Okay, I know it hurts. It's going to feel better in just a few minutes. Um, if we need a band aid, we'll go get one. But you're going to be okay in just a little while." Just that reassurance that like it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to hurt if something really really hurts you physically or even emotionally. Some kids are very sensitive and they get triggered by um, other adults or classmates who aren't raised the way they're being raised. So
Hmm.
sometimes part of your job as a parent is just explaining the world to your kids, like, your friend over here has parents that are a little bit different than us, and
Hmm.
and so you might see something different when you're talking with them.
Yeah. And I think on top of that, I think it's also not jumping to save them immediately when they do get
Yes.
hurt, because they
Hmm.
have to learn, they have to also figure out, does this actually hurt or not? And then you can have that conversation with them of, oh, okay, like you said, like it's going to be okay in a couple minutes, unless
Hmm.
oh, this
Hmm.
is really not good. Like I know you're hurt. I'm going to jump in there and let you know, hey, I know you're
Hmm.
hurt. I
Hmm.
think it's a combination. Otherwise, every little thing they know, hey, if I just do this and like I scream out for help or I get hurt, I know
Hmm.
I'm going to get attention. And so it
Hmm.
becomes, if I'm not getting attention, this is what I'm going to do to get the attention. And so I think it's almost, it's not necessarily a fine line, but it's knowing when to go in there and help and support, and then when to let them work through it on their own, but
Hmm.
also always being there as for
Yes, a backup.
support. Yeah.
Yep, a backup. Yep, yep. Those are great ways for parents. But it's hard to give what you don't have,
Yeah.
and that's like the tough one. And honestly, men have mental health issues, but women don't take care of themselves because they are the caregiver, the consummate caregiver. And I
Hmm.
tell women, if your cup is empty and it's sort of almost not full, you can't pour from it. You can't pour all that compassion and empathy and love to another human being if you're not feeling it for yourself.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of women say, "Oh, that's silly because nobody's ever let me do that. I just keep on doing what I'm doing." Um, and it's okay when you're 30, maybe, but when you hit 40 or 50 and you haven't cared for yourself, it starts to
Hmm.
become a health problem, a mental health problem, and women start to wonder, like, "Oh heck, I'm going through menopause. I'm crazy already, and then I've got all this other stuff in my head." So my job is to tease all that out. You're crazy because your hormones are doing this, but you're a little crazy because of what your parents said. Yeah. So
Hmm.
just letting them know it's okay to be a little crazy every now and then.
Hmm.
So we've almost reached our end of our time. It's gone by really fast.
Yeah.
And in the show notes are going to be ways to reach you, um, different places you have your information, like Instagram, your website, all those kinds of things. And if you could just kind of put a bow on all the things that you think about being a mindset coach, what would you give to our audience, especially those young men who are looking for something better than what they have?
I would say, first off, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to, you know, say that you're not okay, to actually talk about it and find that support system. And then while we're working through things, there's a way to just start small and continue to move forward and grow. Even though we may not be okay, there's still ways to work through that and not be okay and grow at the same time. The world doesn't stop when we're not okay, but it's still important to highlight that and work through that so it doesn't continuously happen.
Yes, great advice. And also the consistency. Yes, this happens, and sometimes it's a landmine in your head that you accidentally stepped on and didn't know it was still there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to kind of take it apart a little bit. I
Yeah.
hear a 3-year-old. I hear a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Matt, this has been delightful. I'm so glad to get to know you a little bit. Um, and also, too, I'm so glad that this is the people you're working with, because if you can head this off before it really starts,
Mm-hmm.
what a great thing it'll be for your kids growing up. And if parents need also some growth mindset, I think you might be a pretty good one to help them with that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Being a great parent is one of the most important things to me.
I tell people who say, "Oh, I'm just a parent." I said, "You're doing the greatest job in the whole world. You're creating a responsible human being, and
Mm-hmm.
what else could be any bigger than that?"
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate you being here. And folks, when you hear Matt, check out his websites. Um, Go to his podcast, take a listen, subscribe, and follow, because we podcasters love that.
Yeah.
Okay. See you next time.